As you may know, it was back in 1950 when Pope Pius XII proclaimed the dogma of Mary's Assumption. Now, before he did that, of course, he consulted with all the bishops of the world and through them with their priests and with the people. And the response to the Assumption was overwhelmingly enthusiastic for two reasons in particular. First of all, because Catholics had already been celebrating the feast for centuries anyway. It just wasn't officially proclaimed. But secondly, because of what had been going on all around the world in the first half of the 1900s, before the Assumption was declared. So in that time, there was the destruction brought about by the First World War. Then less than 30 years later, there was the wholesale slaughter of the Second World War. There was a rise of fascism and Nazism and communism, so there was these political dictatorships all around the world imposing their will on entire cultures. There were numerous genocides taking place. There was the invention of nuclear weapons. There was killing on a horrific scale. In other words, it had been a traumatic 40 years or so. And to a lot of people, it seemed like human life had been reduced to nothing more than fuel for political gain and for military violence. So after all those years of darkness then, the world desperately needed some good news. It desperately needed Mary's Assumption, because her Assumption reaffirms everything that is good and beautiful and hopeful about our lives and about our world. Pope Pius wrote at the time, "Mary, resplendent in glory in body and soul, reigns in heaven with her Son." In other words, Mary's presence in heaven, not just her soul, but her body too, reminds us that the final victory belongs to God's goodness and love. No matter what's going on in the world around us, no matter what's going on in our own lives, the final victory belongs to God's goodness and love. So whatever sin or sadness or destruction or illness or death that we see in this world will not have the final say. That's what the Assumption tells us. You and I and our world have been redeemed. We've been saved by the death and resurrection of Jesus Christ. And in Mary's Assumption into heaven, we see that when God saves us, He saves everything about us. Not just our soul, but our body too, and our emotions, and our intelligence. Everything that we are is destined for eternal life with God and one another in the glory of heaven. And the Assumption tells us that all that has already happened for Mary. And you and I think in 2021, we need to hear that good news. We need to hear that message just as much as the folks did back in 1950. It was in truly becoming one of us in Mary's womb that Jesus began the process of saving us. And it was by His truly experiencing bodily death on the crucifixion that He defeated death itself, our death. And it was by His truly rising, body and soul, from the grave that He prepared the way for our own resurrection. And now in Mary's Assumption into heaven, we see what our own resurrection is going to look like. It's the perfect reunion of our body and our soul, a union that dissolves with our bodily death. In other words, what Pope Pius said about Mary can one day be said about us too, that we will be resplendent in glory, in body and soul, in heaven with Jesus and with one another. In the meantime, as we each make our own way towards that salvation, as we continue our personal journeys toward heaven, Mary intercedes for us every single day, every moment of every day. Her motherly love for each of us, for you and for me, compels her to speak to her Son on our behalf. Mary nurtured Jesus' body and soul within her own. And with her Assumption, now she and Jesus are now reunited, body and soul, in heaven. And in a few moments, too, we will meet Christ Jesus Himself on this very altar. His body, blood, soul, and divinity. Ordinary bread, ordinary wine will be taken up into God's redeeming love and made into channels of grace for you and I, life-saving grace, mediating his very love and presence into us, literally, in Holy Communion. Remember, it was through Jesus' death and resurrection, the death and resurrection of his own body, his human body, that we were saved. And so, as we receive his same body in Holy Communion today, that means our redemption, the redemption of you and I, of our life, of our body and soul, starts even right now in this life. Not just at the moment of our earthly death, but right now. The Assumption reminds us and encourages us and tells us that God's eternal love and goodness is always greater than any earthly destruction that human weakness or sinfulness can bring about. Both the resurrection of Jesus himself and now the Assumption of Mary prove that to us. And that should fill us with tremendous peace and joy and hope, no matter what's going on in the world around us. The victory, the Assumption tells us, the victory belongs to Jesus and now to Mary, and it's our destiny as well.